You have been taught a lie about your own being. You have been led to believe that you are a separate entity, struggling and alone in a universe that is indifferent to your prayers. This is the great illusion, the very foundation of all human suffering. What if I told you that the man known as Jesus was not speaking of a unique, exclusive relationship with a distant God, but was instead revealing a universal and eternal truth about your own consciousness? He declared, "I and the Father are one," and in that moment, he was not making a claim of personal divinity, but was uttering the ultimate truth of your own identity. This is not a theological concept to be believed. It is a living reality to be realized. And when this realization dawns within you, it will shatter every limitation you have ever accepted. It will put an end to your seeking and begin an entirely new chapter of living. In these moments together, we are going to explore the practical, tangible, and revolutionary consequences of this truth. We will uncover what truly happens in your life, in your body, and in your affairs when you begin to understand what he really meant. Now, let us take that first point and allow it to unfold within our consciousness. You see, the entire human experience, with all its triumphs and tragedies, its joys and its profound sorrows, is built upon one foundational, yet entirely mistaken premise: the belief in a separate self. We operate from the moment we wake until the moment we sleep with the unshakable conviction that here I am inside this body, and out there is the world, other people, my circumstances, and a God who may or may not hear me. This I feels solid, real, and entirely autonomous. It is this I that gets offended, that strives for success, that fears failure, that becomes ill, and that ultimately faces death. Your entire life has been a narrative spun by this central character. But what if this I is the great imposter? What if it is not the ultimate reality of your being, but merely a temporary, localized point of perception? The statement, "I and the Father are one," is the atomic truth that, when realized, vaporizes this illusion of separation. It does not mean that a man named Jesus was special while you are not. It means the very core of his being, the I am, that he was conscious of, was one and the same with the creative, intelligent, loving principle of the universe. And this is your true identity as well. The I, that you have always thought was you, is merely a shadow, a flickering echo of the one great I am. Consider for a moment a wave in the ocean. The wave may have a beginning, a middle, and an end. It may rise high and crash with great force, or it may be small and gentle. It may believe itself to be a separate entity, competing with other waves for space, believing its existence is defined solely by its own unique form. It may even pray to the ocean for better conditions. But at no point is the wave ever separate from the ocean. Its very substance is the ocean. Its power, its movement, its very existence is the ocean expressing itself as a wave. The moment the wave realizes, I am the ocean, its entire experience transforms. It no longer fears crashing upon the shore, for it knows it is returning to its own self. It does not struggle against other waves, for it recognizes they are all the same essence. This is the transformation that occurs when you understand that your personal I is not the author of your life. Think of your daily anxieties. You lie awake at night, your mind racing about a problem at work, a financial difficulty, a conflict in a relationship. Who is it that is anxious? It is the separate I, the one that believes it is alone in its struggle, that it must manufacture a solution from its own limited resources, that its survival depends solely on its own cleverness. This I is a vortex of fear and calculation. Now, let this truth seep into that moment. The I, that is worrying, is not the ultimate reality. The true I, the one that is one with the Father, is not anxious. It is a state of pure, undisturbed consciousness of infinite intelligence and peace. It does not solve problems, it dissolves them in a higher awareness. As you shift your identification from the worried, personal self to the silent, spiritual, I am, something miraculous happens. The anxiety does not necessarily vanish like a popped balloon, but it begins to lose its power over you. It is seen for what it is, the frantic activity of a false sense of self, like the churning surface of the ocean, while the depths remain calm and unmoved. You begin to watch the worry without being the worrier. This applies to every facet of human expression. When you feel a deep resentment towards someone who has wronged you, who is it that holds the grudge? It is the separate I whose boundaries have been violated. It fiercely protects its story of injury. But the moment there is a glimmer of the truth that the I that you are is one with the I that they are, that at the level of pure consciousness there is no separation, the foundation of that resentment crumbles. You cannot truly hate what you fundamentally are. The grievance may not disappear in an instant, but its justification is gone. It is seen as a misunderstanding, a play of shadows, and it begins to fade for lack of fuel. This is the great shock to the human system. The end of the separate I is not the end of you. It is the end of the as limitation of you. It is the death of the parasite that was feeding on your life force and presenting itself as you. You do not become a non-entity, you become what you have always been, the boundless, infinite, and eternal consciousness, now consciously aware of itself. The personal I becomes a transparent vehicle, a window through which the divine, I am, shines forth into the world, expressing itself as your unique talents, your love, your intelligence, and your peace. The struggle for survival ceases, and a new life of spontaneous unfoldment begins. This realization of our true nature as one with the divine source completely revolutionizes our understanding of what it means to communicate with God. For the separate I, prayer is an act of petition. It is a transaction where a small, isolated self attempts to persuade a larger, external power to intervene in the world. This self approaches God with a list of needs and wants, hoping to change a situation, heal a body, or acquire a possession. It is the wave begging the ocean to make it bigger, or to calm the waters around it. This form of prayer is born from a sense of lack, from the belief that something, is missing from our experience that a distant God must be convinced to provide. But when the sense of a separate self begins to dissolve, this entire structure of prayer collapses. You can no longer pray as to God because you are no longer separate as from God. The relationship of a subject speaking to an object is gone. So what takes its place? Prayer becomes a state of conscious oneness. It is not an act of speaking, but a profound act of listening. It is not about telling God what should happen, but about becoming silent enough to realize what already is from the standpoint of eternity. This is the prayer of communion, where the wave consciously stills its own motion to know itself as the ocean. Consider the common experience of facing a difficult decision. The old way of prayer would involve anxiously laying out the problem before God, listing the pros and cons, and desperately asking for a sign, or for the situation to be resolved in a specific, favorable way. The underlying energy is one of fear and control. Now, bring the consciousness of oneness to this same situation. You do not approach God with the problem. Instead, you quiet the frantic activity of the personal mind. You consciously withdraw your identity from the worried decision-making I, and rest in the awareness that the infinite intelligence of the Father is your own consciousness. In this silence, you are not waiting for an external voice to speak. You are allowing the clamor of the personal sense of self to subside, so that the inherent wisdom of your true being can come to the foreground. Guidance is not something that comes to you, but something that emerges from the depths of your own realized oneness. An intuition may arise, a sense of rightness, a new perspective that you had not considered in your state of fear. This is not the personal, you figuring it out. It is the divine I, expressing its intelligence through you. The answer is often not what you wanted, but what is harmonious with the whole. The prayer was the stillness itself, the conscious abiding in the truth that the mind that is one with the Father already knows the way. Apply this to a plea for physical healing. The petitionary prayer begs, please, God, heal this body. It reinforces the belief that the body is a separate, flawed object that needs to be fixed by an outside power. The prayer of conscious oneness approaches the situation from an entirely different standpoint. It begins with the realization, I and the Father are one. The consciousness that I am is whole, perfect, and complete. This perfect consciousness is the substance and reality of this very body. In a state of inner quiet, you do not focus on the symptoms of disease, but you abide in the felt sense of wholeness and life that is your divine nature. You are not trying to change a material condition. You are realizing the spiritual truth that underlies all appearance. The healing power is not something applied from the outside. It is the harmony that is naturally expressed when the false sense of a separate, vulnerable self is no longer interfering with the flow of life. The body, as an effect, comes into alignment with its cause, perfect spirit. This transforms even our simplest daily interactions. Instead of praying for patience with a difficult person, You enter into a moment of conscious oneness, realizing the one divine life expressing itself in both of you. The patience that then flows forth is not a strained effort of your personal will, but the natural expression of that unified consciousness. You are not acquiring a virtue. You are manifesting an inherent quality of your true being. Prayer, therefore, ceases to be a sporadic activity and becomes a continuous state of abiding awareness. It is the constant, gentle turning of the attention from the drama of the separate self to the silent, powerful presence of the one that we are. Every moment becomes an opportunity for this communion, where we stop telling God our stories and instead listen for the eternal truth of our being. As we abide in this conscious oneness, as we learn to pray from a state of communion rather than petition, a profound and startling shift occurs in our perception of the world. The very framework through which we have judged our experiences, the entire dualistic notion of good and evil, begins to dissolve before our spiritual eyes. From the standpoint of the separate self, the universe is a battlefield of opposing forces. There is health and sickness, wealth and poverty, success and failure, friends and enemies. Life becomes a constant project of acquiring the good and avoiding the evil, an exhausting struggle that defines the human condition. But the revelation, I and the Father are one, shatters this duality. If God is the only presence and the only power, and your true identity is one with that presence, then what room remains for a power of evil? What substance can opposition truly have? This is not to say that challenging experiences cease to occur, but their nature is utterly transformed. They are no longer seen as external, malevolent forces attacking you, but as shadows cast by the unenlightened mind, as appearances that emerge from a belief in separation and which hold no power in the face of realized truth. Consider a situation where you face a significant financial loss. The human, dualistic mind immediately categorizes this as a bad event. It triggers fear, anxiety, and a sense of victimhood. You feel that an evil force, whether it be a bad economy, a dishonest person, or just plain bad luck, has befallen you. You are now in a struggle against this negative power. But from the consciousness of oneness, this interpretation is seen as the illusion. The appearance of lack is not an external power. It is the externalization of an internal state of consciousness that believes in separation from the source of all supply. The one mind, the Father, is infinite abundance. Any appearance to the contrary is a mirage, a belief taking form. The work, then, is not to fight the evil of poverty, but to correct the misunderstanding within your own awareness. You turn from the appearance and abide in the truth of your oneness with infinite, ever-present supply. The circumstance may or may not change immediately, but your experience of it is revolutionized. The fear vanishes, and you are able to see opportunities and solutions that were invisible from the state of panic. The evil was never a real power. It was the experience of believing yourself to be separate from good. Apply this to an illness in the body. The dualistic view sees a good healthy body being attacked by a bad, evil disease. The entire medical and personal paradigm is one of warfare. We fight cancer. We battle infection. We wage war on illness. But the consciousness of oneness invites us to see this differently. If the one life God is the substance and reality of this body, then what is this appearance of disease? It cannot be a power equal and opposite to God. It must be a shadow, a physical manifestation of a belief in separation, in fear, in some form of mental or spiritual dissonance. The healing, then, is not about defeating an evil enemy called sickness. It is about letting the light of your true spiritual identity so illuminate your consciousness that the shadow of disease simply has no place to exist. You do not fight the darkness. You turn on the light. The healing power is the harmonious flow of life itself, which was only ever obstructed by the belief in a self that is vulnerable and separate from its source. This understanding completely transforms your relationships. When someone acts in a hurtful or cruel way, the old consciousness labels them a bad person, an enemy. You feel justified in your anger and resentment. But from the state of oneness, you see that the hurtful behavior is not the manifestation of an evil power in that person. It is the outer expression of their own deep-seated pain, fear, and belief in separation. They are asleep to their true identity. Seeing this does not mean you become a doormat. It means you are no longer engaged in a dualistic battle of good person versus bad person. You can respond with clarity and set boundaries, but without the poison of hatred, because you recognize the Christ in them, even if it is buried under layers of ignorance. You are not fighting an enemy. You are beholding a sleeping child of God. The evil you perceived was never in their soul, but in the illusion of separation that governed their actions. As you hold to this truth, you become a transparency for the one power to operate, not to destroy the person, but to dissolve the error that binds them. The world ceases to be a place of threats and becomes a classroom where every appearance, whether pleasant or challenging, serves one purpose: to lead us back to the realization that only God, only good is power, and that we are one with that power. This dissolution of the belief in opposing powers naturally leads us to a radical reassessment of the world we perceive with our physical senses. If God is the only cause and the only reality, then what is the nature of this body, these objects, these circumstances that seem so solid and so determinative of our experience? The moment we realize, I and the Father are one, we are compelled to overturn the world's entire value system. The world believes that the body is cause. It gets sick, it gets old, it dictates how we feel. It believes that external conditions are cause. A bank account determines security. A person's words cause our anger. A world event causes our fear. We have been living in a universe of effects, mistaking them for causes, and thus granting them a power they do not in truth possess. Your body does not cause your life. Your consciousness, expresses itself as your body. The world does not cause your experience. Your consciousness interprets and forms your experience of the world. The body and the world are not the independent actors they appear to be. They are the perfect, precise, and impersonal effects of the one and only cause, consciousness itself. When you believe you are a separate self, your body and world reflect that belief in forms of limitation, susceptibility, and conflict. When your consciousness abides in the truth of oneness, that same body and world must transform to bear witness to this higher law. They become transparent, yielding, and harmonious expressions of the divine cause. Consider a simple, everyday example of pain in the body. The universal human reaction is to grant the pain ultimate reality and power. We focus on it, we worry about it, we try to fight it or alleviate it. We are treating the effect as if it is the cause. We are, in that moment, worshiping the creation instead of the creator. Now, bring the light of this principle to that same experience. The pain is an effect. It is a message, a symbol, an outer manifestation of something taking place in the realm of consciousness. It could be the physical echo of a held tension born from fear or the residue of a belief in vulnerability. Instead of attacking the pain, you turn your attention to its cause, you become still, and you withdraw the power you have given to the sensation. You acknowledge it as an appearance, but you reaffirm the spiritual truth. The substance of this body is the perfect, harmonious life of God. You are not a mortal body that has a spirit. You are a mortal spirit consciously manifesting as a body. As you abide in this truth, as you recognize the body as an effect and not a cause, you may feel a warmth, a relaxation, a shift. The effect begins to align itself with the nature of its true cause. The pain may dissolve, not because you fought it, but because you corrected the misunderstanding that gave it birth. Now, take this into your financial world. You look at your bank statement and it shows a lack. The world screams that this piece of paper, this digital number, is the cause of your fear and insecurity. You are worshiping the effect. You are bowing down to the creation. But you now understand that this appearance of lack is an effect. It is the precise and perfect outpicturing of a consciousness that, at some level, believes in separation from its source. The cause is not in the economy or the market. The cause is within the realm of your own understanding. So you turn from the effect. You cease to stare at the empty account, and you turn within to the infinite abundance of the one mind. You rest in the truth that your very being is one with the source of all supply, that your spiritual identity includes all that is needed for your expression and fulfillment. You are not trying to change an effect. You are aligning yourself with the cause, and as you do, as your consciousness shifts, new ideas dawn, unexpected opportunities arise, and the external effect, your financial situation, must change to reflect the new because you are embodying. This is the great secret that liberates you from being a victim of the world. The person who insults you is not the cause of your anger. They are the effect that is triggering a belief in a separate, vulnerable self within you, and that belief is the cause. The global crisis is not the cause of your fear. It is the effect that is revealing a place in your consciousness where you have forgotten the omnipresence of God. When you stop reacting to effects and start responding from the conscious awareness of the one cause, you become a master over appearance. You walk through the world knowing that nothing out here has any power to dictate your peace, your health, or your prosperity. The world and the body become a fluid, malleable canvas upon which the quality of your consciousness is painted. You are no longer at the mercy of circumstances. You are the conscious architect of your experience, not by manipulating the world, but by realizing the truth of your being and allowing that truth to govern the form your life takes. The outer world loses its solidity and becomes what it always was, a shadow of something much more real, a temporary expression of a permanent principle. The recognition that the body and world are effects, not causes, completely reorients our sense of identity and purpose. We are no longer the central character in a personal drama, striving and struggling to build a life for ourselves. That was the function of the separate I, and we have seen its foundation crumble. So what remains? What is our role now? We discover that our life is not our own. We are not here to express a personal will, to achieve personal glory, or to accumulate personal possessions. These are the ambitions of the ghost, self, the echo that believes it is the voice. Our true function is to become a conscious instrument for the impersonal divine. The I that remains is not a person, but a point of awareness through which the infinite, I am, pours itself into individual expression. You are not a creator, but a location where creation happens. This is the most profound surrender, yet it is not a surrender to an external force, but to your own deepest reality. It is the wave consciously allowing the ocean to express its power, its rhythm, and its purpose through its form. Your hands are not your hands. They are instruments through which the divine love touches the world. Your mind is not your mind. It is a channel through which the divine intelligence solves a problem. Your work is not your work. It is the activity of the Father expressing as your unique talents and abilities. You do not lose your individuality. You find it for the first time, purified of all selfish intent and fear, and thus made perfect for its task. Consider an artist who is truly inspired. In their greatest moments of creation, the personal self recedes. They are not thinking, I am going to make a masterpiece that will bring me fame and fortune. That kind of thinking produces strained, calculated, and ultimately forgettable work. Instead, they become absorbed in the flow. The music composes itself through them. The painting paints itself through their hands. The words write themselves through their mind. They are not the source, but the medium. They are the flute, and the divine is the breath. This is a glimpse of living as an instrument. Your entire life becomes that kind of inspired activity. You go to your job not as a means to a personal paycheck, but as the specific location where the infinite intelligence and love of God have chosen to manifest in a way that only you as this particular instrument can express. Take a moment of conflict in your home. The old personal way would be to assert your will, to defend your position, to win the argument. The energy is one of tension and division. Now, approach the same moment as an instrument. Become silent within. Withdraw your personal stake in the outcome. Then listen. You are not listening for your own clever retort. You are listening for the divine voice that speaks for harmony and understanding. You may find words coming out of your mouth that you had not planned, words that disarm the conflict and bring healing. Whose words were they? They did not originate from your personal mind, which was full of defense and grievance. They flowed through you from a higher source. You were the instrument, and the music that was played was peace. This is the secret to effortless action and true power. The personal self is always straining because its resources are limited, and it is constantly meeting resistance. But the impersonal divine is limitless. When you are the conscious instrument of this divine energy, your action is not followed by exhaustion, but by renewal. You are not the burner of the fuel. You are the conduit for the current. A problem arises that seems insurmountable to your personal intelligence. Instead of frantically churning your own mental wheels, you stop. You acknowledge, I of my own self can do nothing, but the Father within me, he doeth the works. You become still, you offer the problem up, and you wait in a state of open receptivity. And then an idea dawns. A solution presents itself. A door opens where before there was only a wall. This is not coincidence. This is the natural consequence of the instrument aligning itself with the master musician. Your life ceases to be a burden you must carry and becomes a song that is being sung. You will find yourself in the right place at the right time, not because you manipulated circumstances, but because you were guided. You will have the right words to say, not because you planned a speech, but because you were spoken through. You will find your needs met in surprising ways, not because you struggled to acquire, but because you were provided for by the same intelligence that designed the universe. You are not the actor on the stage, anxiously trying to remember your lines. You are the stage itself, and the actor is the one divine life, performing its perfect play of wisdom, love, and power through the unique and now purified form of your individual experience. And so we arrive at the culmination, the natural flowering of all that has come before. This understanding that we are instruments of the impersonal divine is not a single, blinding event that forever transports us to a higher plane of existence, leaving our humanity behind. Such an expectation is yet another subtle trap of the personal ego, seeking a grand and final achievement for itself. The realization of your divine identity is not a destination, it is a gradual, gentle, and continuous unfoldment. It is the slow, persistent dawning of light that illuminates the contours of your life, not a lightning bolt that vaporizes it. You are not suddenly becoming something you are not. You are, moment by moment, remembering and becoming consciously aware of what you have always been. This unfoldment is a process of purification. It is like a pane of glass that has been covered in the grime of a lifetime of mistaken identity. The dust of fear, the streaks of resentment, the thick paint of self-importance. The truth of your oneness with God is the cleanser. As you apply it, not with frantic scrubbing, but with a patient and abiding attention, layer after layer is wiped away. At first, the light may only break through in a few small, clean spots. These are those moments of sudden peace in the midst of chaos, those flashes of intuitive knowing, those instances of unconditional love that surprise you. They are brief, but they are real. They are the proof of the light behind the glass. Then, as you persist, larger areas become clear. You notice that a fear which once dominated you has lost its power. A habit of judgment has softened into understanding. The frantic need to control your life relaxes into a sense of guided trust. This is not you improving yourself through personal willpower. This is the grime of the false self being dissolved by the solvent of truth, allowing more and more of the inherent divine light to shine through your everyday awareness. The glass itself is not becoming the light. It is simply becoming a clearer medium for the light that was always there. This is why your spiritual journey is unique and cannot be compared to another's. Your pane of glass has its own particular accumulation of grime, its own history, its own unique patterns. The cleansing will therefore manifest in the specifics of your own life. For one person, the unfoldment may be most evident in the healing of physical ailments, as the belief in a vulnerable body yields to the truth of spiritual substance. For another, it may appear as a newfound creativity and inspiration in their work, as they stop being a personal creator and become a channel for divine ideas. For yet another, it may be the slow and steady dissolution of a lifelong sense of loneliness, as the felt presence of the inner Father becomes more real than the absence of outer companionship. There will be periods of rapid clarity, and there will be periods of seeming stagnation, where no new light appears to break through. Do not mistake these quieter times for failure. They are often the periods of deepest, most fundamental integration. The truth is sinking from the intellectual level into the very cells of your being, rewiring your subconscious responses. It is during these times that trust is your greatest practice. You are learning to abide in the truth, even when your senses report no immediate evidence of change. You are learning to walk by faith, not by sight, knowing that the sun is still shining even when a cloud passes overhead. This gradual unfoldment is your protection. If the full radiance of your divine self were to flood your unprepared consciousness all at once, it would be unbearable, like opening your eyes to the midday sun after a lifetime in a dark cave. The gentle, gradual dawning allows your human faculties to adjust, to acclimatize to the increasing levels of light and life. Every challenge you face, every moment of joy, every mundane task becomes part of this sacred curriculum. Each is an opportunity to choose between the old, familiar voice of the separate, I, and the quiet, confident knowing of the one, I am, with every choice for truth, however small, another layer of the veil becomes thinner. You are not building your divinity, you are uncovering it. You are not earning your sonship, you are consciously accepting it. And as you do, your life ceases to be a search for God and becomes the very expression of God, unfolding in time and space with a grace and a purpose that the personal self could never have imagined, a purpose that is and always has been your own.